Kalorama, a recorded books/hybrid imprint, presents Wake Up America, Black Women on the Future of Democracy. Edited by Keisha N. Blain. Read by Lisa Reneé Pitts. Introduction. Keisha N. Blain. During the summer of 1968, the 50-year-old civil rights activist Fannie Lou Hamer delivered a powerful speech on American democracy before a mostly white audience in Kentucky. Hamer pointed to the undeniable fact that the United States had yet to live up to its promises. This was the crux of the problem at hand. In Hamer's vision, all Americans committed to social justice needed to address the unfinished work of building democracy. No American could look away as Black people fought for the recognition of their humanity. The struggle for civil rights was central to the fight for the future of American democracy because its health would depend on the fair treatment of all members of the American polity, not just some. Hamer possessed a sense of urgency in conveying this message to white Americans about their role in building an inclusive and multiracial democracy. We have a grave problem that's facing us today in this country, and if we're going to make democracy a reality, we better start working now, she declared. White Americans could not simply sit on the sidelines or wait for progress to happen. They, too, needed to join the fight to save the nation. It's time for us to wake up, Hamer advised members of the audience. Hamer's call for Americans to wake up is just as urgent today as it was during the 1960s. Despite the legal gains of the modern civil rights movement, namely the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and the Civil Rights Act of 1968, the United States still fails to live up to the ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. On the surface, there exists a veneer of equal voting access that might send the message that all Americans hold some political power. The phrase, "of the people, by the people, for the people," proclaimed by President Abraham Lincoln in his 1863 Gettysburg Address, still holds much currency in the American psyche. The problem, however, is that the day-to-day realities of Black and other marginalized peoples in the United States raise questions about the veracity of this mantra. A more detailed and honest examination of the United States, devoid of idealism and ideas of American exceptionalism, reveals a nation in need of urgent transformation. Some of the social ills Hamer confronted during her lifetime remain with us today: voter suppression, economic inequality, and state-sanctioned violence, to name just a few that are covered in this collection. The attacks on our voting rights exacerbate the issues we face. In 2013, the Supreme Court's decision in Shelby County v. Holder greatly weakened the 1965 Voting Rights Act by undermining the use of pre-clearance, the process by which the federal government reviewed proposed changes to election law in states and counties that had a history of crafting legislation to block African Americans from the ballot box. Pre-clearance acted as a shield against the racist designs of state legislatures and politicians. Chief Justice John Roberts, in writing the majority opinion of the court, reasoned that our country has changed since 1965, and therefore the jurisdictions covered by pre-clearance no longer merited the extra scrutiny. Since then, multiple state and local authorities have demonstrated the fallacy of Roberts' ruling. They immediately chipped away at the Voting Rights Act, thereby undermining the protections that would ensure full voting access for marginalized U.S. citizens. This winnowing of equal representation is further compounded by the startling racial wealth gap in the United States. 250 years of enslavement, followed by another 150 years of racist and exclusionary practices, including Jim Crow and redlining, deepened economic inequality in Black communities across the nation. As a group of researchers at the Brookings Institution recently concluded, wealth was taken from Black communities before it had the opportunity to grow. And little has been done to improve these disparities, as demonstrated in a 2018 report by University of Bonn economists Moritz Kuhn, Moritz Schulerick, and Ulrike I. Steins. They concluded that no progress has been made in reducing income and wealth inequalities between Black and white households over the past 70 years. It is therefore not surprising that a typical white family in the United States today has a median net worth of $171,000, nearly 10 times greater than that of a typical Black family. This stark racial disparity has fundamentally shaped the experiences of Black people, as the barriers to accumulating wealth have impeded opportunities in every sector of society. In addition to wealth inequalities and unequal voting access, Black Americans must contend with unjust police killings. The systemic problem of police violence and brutality in Black communities across the nation mirrors the pervasive acts of lynchings during the Jim Crow era. Over the past few years alone, we have witnessed unrelenting acts of violence against Black people at the hands of white supremacists and even by those who have sworn to protect and serve. As a 2019 report revealed, police violence is now one of the leading causes of death for Black American men. Black women and girls are also vulnerable to police violence, as the African American Political Forum's 2015 Say Her Name report makes clear. The challenges facing Black communities today, built upon centuries of discrimination, extend to health and education, as disparities in maternal mortality rates and the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 diagnoses and deaths reveal. Black Americans experience poorer health care access and lower quality of care than white Americans. In the realm of education, school districts with mostly white students receive significantly greater resources than do districts with mostly students of color. In recent years, the teaching of African American history has come under attack, as evidenced by the Florida Department of Education's declaration that the AP course on African American Studies lacks educational value. Its decision arrived after conservatives led a nationwide campaign to supposedly rid elementary and secondary classrooms of critical race theory, even though it was not being taught there, and of divisive concepts in general. Conservative politicians have also put in place bills to curtail information to students and the public. While they have crafted numerous arguments to justify their actions, this censorship is an affront to democracy. Florida's Stop Woke Act, its Don't Say Gay law, and similar discriminatory efforts violate the First Amendment of the Constitution and therefore undermine the very essence of democracy. The essays in this book grapple with these concerns as well as with other challenges that threaten the future of American democracy, including anti-LGBTQ plus violence, misogynoir, ableism, fatphobia, and anti-Blackness. We need to find a promising way forward. How might we work together to build an inclusive and multiracial democracy that lives up to the ideals and promises of the nation's founding documents? What concrete steps can we take as ordinary citizens, policymakers, activists, influencers, and leaders to make our democracy stronger? This collection brings together some of the nation's foremost progressive Black women politicians, activists, and intellectuals to answer these questions. The writers offer concrete proposals for strengthening American democracy, organized around three core themes: claiming rights, building power, and combating hate. On the importance of Black people and other marginalized people claiming civil and human rights, we hear from Carol Moseley Braun, the first African-American woman elected to serve in the U.S. Senate; LaFonza Butler, a senator from California and president of Emily's List; Taifa Smith Butler, president of Demos; Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, Democrat, Texas; disability consultant and impact producer Andrea Levant; Atima Omara, former president of the Young Democrats of America; disability rights advocate Vilissa Thompson; and transgender rights activist Raquel Willis. Part 2 shifts focus to the theme of building political and economic power. It underscores the significance of individual and collective power in sustaining a healthy democracy. In this part, we hear from Amy Allison, president of She the People; public health advocate Dr. Rhea Boyd; veteran political strategist Donna Brazil; Glinda C. Carr, president and CEO of Higher Heights of America; Black Lives Matter co-founder Alicia Garza; New York City Council member Crystal Hudson; Kim Michelle Janey, former mayor of Boston; abolitionist Miriam Kaba; and former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner. Part 3 grapples with the theme of hate, an ever-growing threat to American democracy. Here, the writers Charlene A. Carruthers, founding national director of BYP 100, Black Youth Project 100; Reneé Graham, columnist for the Boston Globe; Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, senior minister at the Middle Church; Representative Ruth Richardson, Democrat, Minnesota; and Tammy Sawyer, former Shelby County Commissioner, underscore the necessity of eliminating all forms of hate in American society as a vital step in building a strong democracy. This timely, multi-generational book offers a snapshot of the ideas of some of the nation's most influential thinkers and change-makers. It captures the dynamism of Black women's political leadership and centers voices that have historically been silenced, including those of younger activists, radical organizers, and people from the queer and disabled communities. Drawing from their diverse experiences and expertise, the Black women in this collection offer critical insights on how we can effectively build a more inclusive and equitable society. With the 2024 U.S. presidential election on the horizon, I invited these women to contribute to this collection because of their records of impactful work at the grassroots, national, and international levels. These writers, representing diverse socioeconomic backgrounds and religious beliefs, capture the depth and richness of Black women's wisdom and radical visions for transforming American society. In the spirit of Fannie Lou Hamer, the Black women leaders featured in this book call on Americans to wake up, to acknowledge that we have considerable work to do to build a democracy that embraces all Americans, regardless of their race, gender, sexuality, ability, socioeconomic background, or any other social category. They embody another aspect of Hamer's enduring legacy as well by following the example she set as a bold and courageous truth-teller who never minced words about the urgent need for change. Taking up Hamer's mantle, they hold fast to the belief that change is possible and offer concrete recommendations on how to make these visions a reality. Their words of wisdom are especially timely at this moment in our nation's history, because they occupy a marginalized position, shouldering multiple and intersecting forms of oppression, including racism, sexism, and classism. Black women are uniquely positioned to combat injustices in our society. Not surprisingly, they have used whatever was at their disposal to influence politics and guide U.S. and even global policy. As the most subordinate group within racial and gender hierarchies, Black women have understood, perhaps more than others, what it means to live without full citizenship and human rights. By articulating a vision of freedom for themselves, Black women are also advocating for the liberation of all oppressed people. Their political advocacy and their efforts to strengthen American democracy therefore broadens the rights and opportunities for every person in the United States. Today, Black women represent one of the most consistent and therefore powerful voting blocs in the nation. In 2008 and 2012, Black women voted at the highest rate of any race or gender subgroup. Their votes, 96% of them cast for President Barack Obama, played a vital part in his re-election in 2012. Black women voters backed the then incumbent in several key battleground states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida, that together gave Obama 67 electoral college votes. While Black voters in general had high turnouts in prior elections, Black women often led at higher rates than Black men and other racial and ethnic groups in the country. And their absence was felt in 2016, when the Black voter turnout rate declined for the first time in 20 years. Though fewer Black voters made it to the polls that year, Black women still left their mark, as an estimated 63.7% voted, one of the year's largest voter turnout rates compared to other racial groups. And they were instrumental in helping the Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton win the popular vote. 94% of Black women voted for the former U.S. Secretary of State and former First Lady. Black women's robust participation in electoral and grassroots politics today stems from a long history of exclusion and marginalization that they have been passionately resisting for centuries. In 18th century Massachusetts, for example, Elizabeth Freeman, an enslaved black woman, sued for her freedom on the basis that the state constitution guaranteed of equal rights for all. She won her case in 1781. In the aftermath of the Revolutionary War, free black women across the country devised a range of strategies to challenge their exclusion from various aspects of society. Many turned to black churches as crucial spaces where they could organize and demand the expansion of their political and citizenship rights. By the early 20th century, a cadre of black women leaders rose to national prominence as they sought inclusion in the struggle for woman suffrage. Ida B. Wells Barnett, one of the most significant early civil rights activists, called for federal legislation to stop the lynching of black people, a critical domestic challenge. Her commitment to ending racist violence in the United States laid the groundwork for the passage of federal anti-lynching legislation, a process that would take more than a century to complete. From the 1920s to the 50s, black radical women, including black nationalists and women on the communist left, worked to expand the fight for citizenship rights beyond issues of racial violence and white supremacy to include demands for better health care, housing, education, and more. In the 1960s and 70s, civil rights and black power activists built upon the legacies of earlier generations to lead a national movement to increase civil and human rights for black Americans. Black women, including Hamer, Septima Clark, Ella Baker, Gloria Richardson, and Angela Davis, were at the forefront of these efforts. These women recognized the flaws in American democracy, but they believed the United States was worth saving. They often looked to the nation's founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, including the Bill of Rights, to reaffirm their demands for equal participation and equal access. Since then, numerous black women leaders and activists, Stacey Abrams, Ayanna Pressley, Latasha Brown, Imara Jones, Bree Newsome, Ayo, formerly Opal Tometi, Andrea Jenkins, Cori Bush, and many more, have been unwavering in their advocacy for the expanded rights and freedom of marginalized groups. Black women activists, intellectuals, and leaders have been creating strategies and amplifying them at the local, national, and transnational levels. Wake Up America, Black Women on the Future of Democracy brings together 22 of today's leading progressive black women to offer key reflections on some of our nation's most pressing challenges. Here, they give their singular and valuable perspectives and offer vibrant ideas and solutions to benefit democracy on our shores and around the world. They don't all agree on the necessary steps to make an inclusive democracy a reality. Some support reform, making changes to existing structures, while others advocate abolition, the complete dismantling of these structures. Some call for more opportunities for black women in politics, arguing that gaining greater representation and a seat at the table will open more doors of opportunity for them to shape public policy. Others propose more revolutionary responses, including a desire to overturn the proverbial table and create alternative spaces of power. Some writers look primarily to the law and public policy as the bedrocks on which to build a stronger democracy. Others emphasize the need to focus on changing culture, including media and entertainment, as the crucial avenue for shifting the hearts and minds of all Americans. While they all offer distinct proposals, the Black women in this collection agree that it's time for Americans to wake up and commit themselves to dismantling systems of oppression that undermine the future of democracy. And they all argue that change is possible, as long as we are unwavering in the fight. My hope is that for those of you who are committed to making democracy a reality in the United States, their incisive commentary will provide a blueprint for steps we can take right now and in the years to come. Part 1. Claiming Rights. On Women's Rights. Honorable Carol Mosley Braun. Intersectionality, a term introduced by legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989, captures the interconnections of race, gender, class, and other social categories. As a concept, it is more straightforward than any lived reality. When you are Black, female, and working class, these identities come together in unpredictable ways. Throughout my career, I have attempted to chart the different stereotypes and popular conceptions pertaining to all three, and I have run into a miasma of complementary, but sometimes contradictory, expectations. These booby traps and stereotypes were hard to ignore. They were all designed to remove or limit my agency on the basis of my gender, race, or class status. They are a reality that all Black women in the United States face. The stereotypes stem from the same societal and sometimes legal concepts that justified slavery and the treatment of women as infantile beings. The common law idea of coverture, which can be traced back to the Middle Ages, held that certain people did not have the intellectual capacity to make decisions for themselves, much less for the broader society. On the basis of coverture, women were denied the opportunity to own property, to stand in civil society in their own right, to file lawsuits, or to even have a voice in public affairs. This was an inherent part of the foundations of the United States despite the soaring words of the 1776 Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our current challenge in the United States is that these words have not yet been fully realized. We must press ahead and push the envelope in every possible way to expand opportunities for all Americans, especially those who are marginalized. This is the only way we can make the words of the Declaration of Independence finally true. The history of the United States has been the constant struggle, sometimes in fits and starts, toward making the words of the Declaration of Independence reflect the reality of American society, and not simply myths about her people. We live in a nation where stereotypes and assumptions continue to dominate public discourse. Women are not to be trusted. Black people are shady, if not criminal. Indigenous people no longer exist. Poor people are to be punished for some spiritual transgression. All these false statements and more have become justifications for oppression and exploitation. The American nation was built on the labors of enslaved people.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?